So, my abusive parents, they tried to get me and my brother to come back home, give us a nice home-cooked meal, because, well, we haven't been talking in a long time. But once we got there, my brother and me knew that we were in over our heads, because you won't believe what my mom and dad tried to get us to do.
First things first, this is a throwaway account. I don't want this getting back to me just in case you guys think that what made me and brother did was evil. But I mean, bad things do happen to bad people, right? This is a lengthy read, but trust me, it's worth it. If you have toxic parents, then you definitely understand why we did what we did. Alright guys, let me give you a bit of context. I'm 28, I've always had a rocky, complicated relationship with both of my parents, Linda and Gerald, but I've always felt that my mother was the one who somehow disliked me the most. But that's impossible, right? I mean, how can a parent dislike their own kid, their own flesh and blood? Anyways, I'm a successful attorney and I'm very well off. Now, this didn't come easy. I worked my butt off to get where I am today, and did it all without any financial assistance from my parents. My parents have always just been stingy and selfish when it came to money and when I wanted to go study. They bluntly told me that they would not cover my tuition or anything. So I worked hard and managed to get myself a scholarship, which even paid for law school. So I've never relied on them financially, which is ironic because my parents were not struggling or anything. They actually have good paying jobs. However, unlike my brother, James, I've always believed I've had faith that one day my parents would change and be better parents and also people. It was a rainy day and I was busy working on a case when my office phone rang. It was my assistant calling to tell me that I had a visitor. I'd raised my eyebrows and told her to send the visitor in. I wonder who this visitor is because I was not expecting anyone and no one ever came to see me at work, not even my own boyfriend Liam. My mother walked in and I was shocked to see her because we hardly ever saw each other. She greeted me with a big smile on her face, and I greeted her back. She could tell that I was uneasy and confused by her visit. She told me to relax, and that the reason she was here was because she wanted to take me out for lunch. So I raised my eyebrow at her and asked her what was the special occasion. She just laughed and told me to stop joking around. Yeah, she was acting really weird. She told me that she wanted us to catch up and hang out just as girls without my father and brother. I won't lie when she mentioned that she wanted us to catch up. It warmed my heart because we hardly ever did such. Well, we really have never done that. Anyways, I smiled at her and told her that she was lucky that it was almost my lunch break. I took my handbag and we left the office together. We went to this little cute cafe that was near the office so that I would not have to drive or rush back to the office at all. We went ahead to take our seats and, well, then proceeded to look through the menu and my mother and then started to ask me about my love. Strong. My parents had only met James a handful of times because they did not like him. They felt that he was a bad seed. I never understood why they thought that because he was honestly such a sweetheart. Well, yes, he did have his flaws, but guys, I'm telling you, he was a great guy. My brother also did not like my boyfriend. He felt that Liam was using me just because I had a really good paying job while he was still struggling to find work. It never bothered me that Liam wasn't working because I knew how bad the economy had been. Jobs were really scarce and unfortunately, Liam also did not have a qualification because he had dropped out of college. My mother told me that I should let Liam come over for dinner one day at their house. I gasped in shock and just nodded my head, and we ordered our food and continued catching up. I asked what made her decide to invite me out. She took a deep breath and looked into my eyes. She told me that she's been such a horrible mother to me and that she wanted to fix it. She continued to say that she wished that she had done things differently with me because all she ever wanted was to not be her own mother, who has been abusive and absent her entire life. My mother hardly ever spoke about her childhood. She always told us that it was the past and we should stop being nosy. We never met her parents and we always understood why we didn't have a relationship with them. They had ill-treated my mom. My mother took my hand into her hands and told me that she wanted us to be like best friends and that it wasn't too late for us to fix our relationship. I smiled at her and told her that I would love that. She lifted her arms in excitement and we continued our conversation. She also told me that she would love for us to have a mommy-daughter trip and for it to be out of state. I told her that's a great idea and it would definitely help us bond. Well, once we were done eating, the waiter gave us the bill and my mother looked at me. She asked me if I could simply pay because she had forgotten her wallet. I smiled and told her, "Don't you worry." She told me that our next lunch date would be on her and that she would take me to one of her favorite restaurants. I told her I would love and appreciate that because we hardly spend time together. She told me that was all about to change and that I should not hold on to the past, which I agreed with. Once I got to the office, I texted James and told him all about my lunch with our mother. He obviously had only negative things to say because he didn't trust our parents at all. I told him that he needed to be more optimistic and that he should reach out to our father. He told me that he would rather burn in hell, which I understand because our parents haven't really been the best of parents to us. But I was still going to give my mother the benefit of the doubt. She seemed really genuine at our lunch and even suggested a girls' trip. So that must mean that she wants to simply fix the relationship. Update number 1. It's been 2 weeks since I had a lunch date with Mom, and we've been texting and calling each other nonstop since then, and honestly, it's been making me happy. I'm finally getting the mother and daughter relationship I've always wanted. I decided to invite my family and Liam over for dinner. The dinner would signify a fresh start for all of us, and I was just hoping that my brother would not ruin it with his negative attitude. I was busy cooking in the kitchen when the door rang. I quickly went to answer it and found my parents. They greeted me with big smiles and I greeted back. I told them that they could sit and wait in the living room and that dinner would be ready in about 20 minutes. My mother told my father to go wait in the living and that she was going to help me in the kitchen, which shocked me because my mother has always hated cooking. We got into the kitchen and she assisted me with everything. While I was taking out the chicken from the oven, my mother mentioned that there's this worthy investment called the Millionaire Estate, and she thinks that it's something that we should all invest in. As I was about to respond, my brother and boyfriend walked in. I greeted them both and they greeted me back. I could see the annoyance in my brother's face, but I was grateful that he even bothered to show up. They went to the living room to sit with my father while me and Mom finished up. So, my brother set up the table and shockingly my boyfriend even helped him. They actually seemed like they were tolerating one another, which I appreciated. I noticed that my father was not in his normal grumpy, sour mood, and that he was trying to engage with both James and Liam, which put a smile on my face. It seemed like they were really changing and trying to fix things. After everything was ready, we sat down and started to eat. There was an awkward silence at first, but then my mother brought up the whole Millionaire Estate investment thing again. She explained to us that it's a great investment and that we would all have to do is just simply pay a deposit. I asked her what it was exactly and she told me basically, we would be investing in property that's worth $1 million. My father then added that this would be a lifetime investment and that it would benefit us all. Yeah, it sounded pretty interesting. James looked at our parents and asked them why didn't they just invest it themselves? Why they needed us. My mother smiles at him, but I could tell that she got annoyed by the question. She answered him by telling him that the deposit was very pricey and that unfortunately they would not be able to afford it alone. My father took out his phone and started showing us the information and even pictures of the property. Liam was interested in this investment opportunity, so much so that he kept on asking my parents question after question. I thought that they would get annoyed with him, but they were engaging with him and answered everything. My brother shook his head and chuckled. My father asked him what's so funny, and he looked at my parents and told them that he would not be giving them a cent, because they never gave him a cent for his studies. He continued to tell them that he finds it funny that they now want money from us when they never contributed a single cent towards our college fees. My mother calmly asked him not to dwell on the past, and to rather try to focus on the present. He just laughed and told them that he would not be investing in anything. My mother proceeded to tell him that he did not have to be so hasty and that he should just think about it. He shook his head and told Mother that he had absolutely nothing to think about. My mom then asked me what did I think about the Millionaire Investment Club. Everybody looked at me and I just froze. James shook his head and told me that if I knew what was best for me, I would not even entertain this stupid idea. He stood up and left. Liam asked me why my brother was such a drama queen. I told him to please not be rude and call my brother names. I started to clean up to avoid the awkward tension. However, my mother followed me to the kitchen. She helped me clean everything, and after we were done, I thanked her. She just smiled at me. She asked me to please at least think about the investment opportunity because she believed that it would be beneficial to all of us, especially me. She told me that this could really set me up for life and that I wouldn't ever have to worry about money. I gave her a little smile. I told her that I would think about it. She smiled back at me and started talking about where and when should we go for our girls' trip because she could not wait for us to just be far away from everything. Update number 2. A few days have passed since the dinner at my place, and I was busy working in my office when my boyfriend walked in with a large bouquet of red roses. I asked him what was the occasion, and he kissed me on the cheek and told me that, just wanted to spoil me. I thanked him and put the roses in a vase, and I asked him if he wanted anything to eat, and he told me that he wasn't hungry and that he actually wanted to talk to me about something. So I asked him what it was, and he led me to the living room where he had set up this laptop. He started showing me information about the Millionaire Estate. I didn't realize that he was really interested. I've never seen him so passionate and excited about anything, but he was so passionate about this opportunity. He told me that I would be simply stupid to not invest in this lifetime opportunity. He continued to tell me that he believes that if we invest in this, then we would honestly be sorted for life, and isn't that something that I would love? I told him that it is something that I've always wanted for myself, but I still needed a bit of time to think about it, He frowned at me and asked me what more do I need to think about. He told me that this was legit and that I needed to invest right now. I shook my head and told him that when it comes to my money, I don't play around, especially with such a large chunk of it. He told me to stop being so uptight and just take the risk for once in my life. I told him that I was not going to take any chances with my money. As I was about to ask him what were his plans for the evening, he told me that he had to go. I asked him if he could not stay for a bit longer, and he just ignored me. He packed up his things and asked me if he could quickly check if he had left anything in my office, and I nodded my head and started making myself a sandwich. 10 minutes passed, and Liam still has not come back from my office. As I was about to go and check on him, here he comes, right out of the office, and he told me that he would see me later. I asked if he was seriously going to be mad at me, and he looked at me and told me that he wasn't mad at all. He just had something that he urgently needed to handle. He hugged me, and he left. I took my sandwich and went to my office and noticed that he had left a pamphlet on my desk, and obviously it was about his little Millionaire Estate opportunity. I sighed and decided to do some research on it. So a week has passed and I was at my bank because a few days I noticed that money was being deducted from my credit card, which was weird because I never use it. But what is exactly strange is that I can't find my credit card anywhere. The bank agent told me that there has been a lot of transactions activity on my account, and I told him that's impossible because I hardly use my credit card. He then turned his computer screen around and showed me all the transactions. He was right. There was a lot of activity on my account, and it looked like someone had been using my card to pay off their monthly installments. I saw a familiar name, and it was one linked to my parents, which I found even more strange. So, I asked the agent to stop and cancel the credit card, and then I made a call to a close family friend of the family. I got to the meetup spot where I've asked my family friend, Melissa, to meet me. We greeted each other and took our seat. She asked me how I've been doing, and I just told her that I've been doing great. Well, she looked at me confused, and I asked her if I had something wrong, She told me that I had not said anything wrong, but she was confused about how I was doing well when my parents were not. Well, I raised my eyebrow and asked her what's going on. She sighed and told me that things financially were not looking good for my parents. Melissa was also my parents' financial advisor and accountant, so she knows everything about their finances. I told her that I'd absolutely no idea that my parents were struggling. She told me that my parents had asked her to not mention anything to me, but to encourage me to invest in this so-called millionaire estate. I asked why she was using the word so-called. She told me that she does not believe that this investment opportunity is legit. I gasped in shock and asked why she was feeling that way. She proceeded to explain to me that she did her research on this company and she found absolutely nothing. She also explained to me that this company wasn't even registered and that you can't find anything about them. I told her that, well, could not be because my parents had shown me, my brother, and Liam an email from them. I also told her that my parents even had pamphlets, and Melissa shook her head and told me that this was very sketchy and suspicious. So, I then proceeded to ask Melissa, how were my parents broke because just a few weeks ago, they'd asked me and my brother to invest in this opportunity with them. She shook her head and said that was impossible because the only way my parents could financially save themselves was that they had to file for bankruptcy. I was even in more shock. Bankruptcy? I started asking myself what the hell's going on. Melissa asked me if I could show her the account number and banking details of this millionaire estate, so I asked her to give me a moment. I called my mother and asked her to please screenshot the email that she had shown about the investment opportunity and send it to me. She sent it and asked me if I've made up my mind, and I told her I would let her know ASAP. I showed Melissa the email, which had the banking details and account number. She took out her phone and checked something. Once she was done, she started to shake her head. I asked her what's wrong. She kept quiet and gave me her phone, and I looked at it and asked her, well, what did she want me to look at exactly? She told me to look at the account number, so I looked at it and noticed it's the same number on Melissa's phone. I was now even more confused. Melissa scrolled up, and once I read who the owner of the account was, I almost dropped my cell phone. I could not believe it. It was all part of a huge scam. The account number on the pamphlet's exactly the same as my mother's, meaning that if me and James had agreed on the day to invest, we would have lost all our money while enriching them. I could not believe this. I was feeling confused, hurt, and betrayed. Why would my parents do this? I mean, why? Why would they lie to us and try to trick us? I just thanked Melissa and asked her if she could please keep this meeting between us. She nodded her head and gave me her word that she would not mention our meeting, and I then asked her about the name that I had seen on the document. I took out my phone and showed her what I was talking about, and she told me that was the landlord of the apartment where my parents stay. As soon as she uttered those words, I almost dropped my phone. She asked me what was wrong and why I was asking. I told her I would explain everything to her later. I thanked her and then rushed off. I could not believe this. Not only had my parents tried to scam me, but they had also stolen my credit card. But the real question was, how on earth had they gotten my credit card? They hardly came to my house, and the night when they had come over for dinner, they had absolutely no access to my purse. So, I immediately called my brother and told him everything with tears rolling down my cheeks. He said that he knew something was fishy and that he warned me about trusting our parents, and I just could not believe any of this. Update number 3. Hey guys, so it's been a few days since I found out about my parents' evil plan. I decided not to confront them just yet because, well, I was going to teach them a lesson, that's for sure. While I was at work, I received a call from my mother. She told me that she was inviting me and my brother over for dinner. Well, I asked her what was the reason for the invite, and she chuckled and asked me if she needed a reason to see her child. I rolled my eyes and told her of course not, and that I would be there. A few hours later, I was busy parking my car outside my parents' apartment. Me and James arrived at the same time, and I gave him the rundown of my plan, and he was on board. We knocked on the door, and our mother answered with a huge grin on our face. We got inside and took our seats at the dining table, and I looked at the food and noticed that it was takeout. She always used to do this. She would buy takeout and then try to make it seem like she cooked it. We started eating, and there was this awkward silence. My father then spoke up and asked us if we've decided on a decision. James shook his head and told him that he was not going to invest. My parents then looked at me, and I told them that I also was not going to invest. My father slammed his fist on the table and was fuming with anger. He proceeded to tell us that if we were going to be stupid and not see such a perfect opportunity, then the least we could do was lend them the money. My mother then starts to say that once they made this investment, they would be millionaires. Unfortunately, I could not keep it any longer and I snapped. I told them that it would be impossible for them to be millionaires because they're not, well, they're in debt and they're going to be bankrupt. My mother glared at me with such an evil stare and asked me what the hell I'm talking about. I told her I know everything and I was disgusted by their actions. Well, my father told me to shut up because I had absolutely no idea what I was talking about, and I told him that I knew that this investment opportunity wasn't real. It was fake, a phony. He yelled at me and told me that I was a spoiled, rotten brat. I told him it's funny that he's calling me a spoiled brat, yet he wanted to steal even more of my money. My mother rolled her eyes and asked me what I'm talking about. I could feel my body heating up. I couldn't believe how nonchalant that they were acting. Well, I told them that I knew that it was them who had stolen my credit card. I called them low-lives and thieves, and my mother starts to laugh hysterically and proceeds to tell me that I was sleeping with a low-life because how do I think they got their hands on my credit card? I immediately froze. There was only one person that knew both me and my parents, but why would he do that to me? He disliked my parents. Why would he have given them my credit card? My mother then continued to say that Liam was so desperate for a quick buck that he decided to work with them. She also told me that he also knew that this was a scam because after the dinner at my house, he reached out and contacted my father the next day, and this is when they let him in on the plan. My heart was beating so damn fast, and I honestly could not believe what I was hearing. My father then admitted that it was Liam who had gone and stolen my credit card and given it to them. He also told me that they have even used my card to pay off some of Liam's debt, because he asked them to. James shook his head and muttered under his breath that he had always known that Liam was shady. I was fuming with anger and I proceeded to go ahead with my plan of revenge. So I took out my phone and posted everything on social media. I exposed my parents' financial situation, I exposed how they used to treat me, and I knew that this would simply just hurt them because their reputation was everything to them. I told them what I have done and my mother lost it. She had tried to jump on me, but my brother pulled her back. She even tried slapping me, but she missed. She then started screaming that everything was part of their plan and that she never wanted to work on our relationship or even fix it. She said that those things, so that I would have invested in their fake little plan, and I could not believe it that I've been so damn gullible. She starts calling me all sorts of names and insults, and I just glare at her. I was so disappointed in them. Especially my mother. Wow. No mother should want to put their child in any sort of pain, yet mine was willing to hurt me and scam me out of my money. I told her that I was disappointed in her and she rolled her eyes. My father, on the other hand, was yelling that I'd ruined his life and that everyone was going to look down on me. Clearly, my parents are self-absorbed and selfish, that they obviously only care about themselves. I told them that I was going to press charges against them for using the card. Well, they kept quiet and just looked at me. I told them to never contact me again and that I wanted nothing to do with them. I then walked out of their apartment and headed home. Update number 4. Hey guys, so a few months have passed and so much has changed. Well, firstly, I didn't add this, but you should know, I broke up with Liam. I couldn't trust him and realized what a scam bug he truly was. The fact that he stole my credit card and was working with my parents to scam me showed me that he didn't truly love me. I did end up pressing charges of theft against him, so we shall see how that goes. And I also exposed his actions right there on social media. We haven't been in contact since I broke up with him, and I hope to never see him again. My relationship with my parents is non-existent. I haven't spoken to them since that day. I deleted and blocked their contacts and blocked them all over my social media. I wanted absolutely nothing to do with them, and I just could not forgive them for what they did to me. So I cut them off and started telling myself that I didn't have parents at all. I laid multiple charges on them, and the court has ordered that they pay back every single cent that they used on the credit card. I was grateful that the law was on my side, and I got the justice that I deserved, even though this whole experience was extremely painful. I definitely would not have gotten through this without my brother's support, and I'm thankful that at least I have him as my family. Sometimes you don't really need a big family, right? You don't. Not to feel loved. Sometimes you just need that one person who will always be there for you to protect and support you.
I think the most insane part of this story was not the fact that OP had to deal with her toxic parents. No, I wouldn't say that was the biggest thing. It has to be the boyfriend. The boyfriend of the story was in on this, and it just really truly showed that the boyfriend did not love OP. I want to know what you think about OP's form of revenge, and also how OP exposed everyone on social media. I want to know your thoughts about it. Thank you for joining me on today's video, and if anyone's ever been in a similar situation as today's story, I want to know your story in the comments down below. Drop your thoughts. Thank you once again, and if you guys want daily videos just like today, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. Thank you, I'll see you tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.